So, Mira, maybe we can start now.
Yeah, we have more than enough, I think, participants already, and there are a few people that informed me that they are coming and going. So
Yeah.
I think we can already start.
Okay. And you hear me well? You hear me?
Yes,
well?
perfect.
Okay, then we'll just start. So, hello everyone, and welcome to this HOLOSUSTAIN workshop on the North Atlantic sea cucumber value chains, current status and industrial opportunities. I am Ólafur Friðjónsson, a group leader at Matís, the company which will be hosting this digital workshop today. So maybe a few words about Matís. Matís is an Icelandic government-owned yet independent R&D company. The research and development is aligned with the food and biotechnology industry. So Matís is serving the food and the feed industry here in Iceland and abroad as well. The aim of Matís is value creation and to promote food safety and public health. So in many aspects, Matís is similar to Nofima or Sintef in Norway, as there are many participants from Norway here in this workshop. So Matís is also a leading analytical service company for public and private authorities here in Iceland. Now, concerning the workshop, originally we planned to have a physical meeting in Reykjavik this spring, and then due to the circumstances later this fall, as we saw this was not going to happen, we decided still to go on with the workshop, but as a virtual event. I would have wanted to see you all here in Reykjavik, but unfortunately this was not an option for the moment. Anyway, this will be a one-day event with 2 sessions, a morning session on fishery status and aquaculture, and afternoon session on high added value product opportunities. We will have a few company pitches and presentations from researchers and authorities. We have participants from all over the world, and even as far as New Zealand. At the end of the workshop, we will have a common roundtable for everyone to participate, where the need for support in value chain development, stocks management, and novel opportunities will be discussed. We will follow the timetable as closely as possible, starting with presentation on the fishery status and aquaculture. We will have a break about 9:45 Reykjavik time, and that is 11:45 Central European time. And then shortly later, a lunch break at 10:40 in Reykjavik. So it will rather be breakfast for me here in Reykjavik. And that's 12:40 Central European time. Now, everyone, during the meeting, everyone can add questions in the chat board below. Just write the questions down during the meeting. And if there is time, after each presentation, we will address them. Otherwise, we have scheduled time for answering questions at the end of each session. Now, during the roundtable session, you will have the opportunity to raise your hand. We will explain this feature later. Now, this workshop is organized and implemented within the frame of the NORA HOLOSUSTAIN project. And before we start, Miroslava Atanovsova in Mörifosning, Norway, who is the coordinator of the HOLOSUSTAIN project, will give a short introduction on the project. Mira, please.
Thank you, Ólafur. I wanted to thank you all for being interested in collaborating and being interested in sea cucumbers. That's why the HOLOSUSTAIN project exists. It's a platform that actually wants to provide possibilities for everyone to share. I don't know if you can see my screen. Sorry, so yes. Can you see my screen?
No, not yet. There's a button, share screen, and then there's a button below. You know,
yes, sure. I think I did that, but let me see again. Sorry for this. Share screen. Yes. So it will be this. Yes. Okay. So now you should probably be able to see it.
Yeah. Now we
And
see it.
now I'm passing to the presentation mode. So the idea of the HOLOSUSTAIN project is to actually unite all forces regarding industry and research in order to make this make it possible to bring further the knowledge on sea cucumbers and to actually be able to achieve a lot of the goals which are very important in knowing better and valorizing this resource, which is a valuable part of the our common biodiversity heritage. So let's say that I'm a bio researcher with background in biotechnology, and before coming to Norway, I was part of 2 sea cucumber projects. And also ever since I've been part of several intents to achieve funding on advancing further the knowledge on sea cucumbers. I have always been specifically interested in the Atlantic sea cucumber species, and our actually the idea about HOLOSUSTAIN came through this experience, which showed that it is definitely important to join forces and create a critical mass of interested parties in order to be able to actually achieve the goals regarding sea cucumbers. So the project was funded by NURA in the beginning of, in mid 2019. And our first workshop was kind of delayed because of the COVID issue, as Olofor already mentioned, but our objectives are, one of the objectives is to provide a common platform for communication through the project's website. Also to organize 2 collaborative workshops where we can exchange information and interests, and also apply together with the project partners. One of our objectives is to apply together to external funding for projects and research and development, and other interesting achievement in the HOLOSUSTAIN will be the data library, which is I'm going to present very briefly now, which is going to put together objectively within a year and a half all the available information on sea cucumbers that is published. So you can see now on the slide a little bit the view. The library is currently in a trial phase, so it's being tested by the partners of the project regarding its structure and the keywords that are to be used for the search, but it is going to be a searchable tool, and it has the sections currently that you can see here on this slide on the right side. And
Mira, we only see the first slide.
Yes, how come? I am showing already the second one. So it's
so we don't see the
yeah, the library.
No, we only see the first slide. So you are still.
How about
you need to go into your setting and take duplicate screen in PowerPoint.
Okay, just a second. So I should. So duplicate screen will be.
This is fine. Now we see.
Okay. Okay, I will figure it out for the next time and not lose your time now. So the slide shows actually the bioactive compound, the sections of the library which are currently bioactive compounds, health effects, animal and human studies, aquaculture and biology, fisheries and market, regulatory aspects, nutritional composition, and associated microbiota and genomic information. This is the current testing version of it. So there is a general view with all these sections where a little bit is explained about how the references have been gathered and which are the keywords that are advised for the use. And you have also on the right-hand side the search option where the keywords are to be supposed to be included, and then you will get this is the next section overview, but you are supposed to yield through the search full text PDFs with references, but not only. So in the fisheries and market, there will be any links possible to fisheries and market reports, and also links to platforms that are currently in a legal way providing sea cucumber raw material. These are of course different species and not all of them are Atlantic, but still it might be of interest to some of our industrial partners, so it has been included currently in the database. And for example, this is an example of a search with in vitro as keyword. So you will get the full PDFs and they are downloadable to anybody who has access to the library. There is also important possibility to upload files. So any files that users of the library are interested in uploading that correspond to the interests and the requirements of the library, they can upload here. Just another very brief comment that the idea when the library is issued in its final version, it will be updated every 4 months with all relevant files and links. And then we are also thinking about the future of the library, which will be beyond the framework of the project. We intend to keep it functional. So we are discussing options also to make a section for new metabolic and bioactive compound information. It will either be included in this library or there will be a link to the Eurofear eBasis database, which already has some, although limited, information on Atlantic sea cucumbers and Mediterranean sea cucumbers included. And I just wanted to, since there was quite a broad interest on the website regarding the library, I wanted to mention that it is going to be paid because it has to cover the maintenance fees and also the legal permissions to have the full texts made available to everyone who wants to use the library. So I mean external stakeholders. And that is what I can say regarding the project. Please, any questions, just put in the chat and I will address them further. And now I give back the floor to Olafur to present the first speaker. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mira. Now you can share your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mira, for this introduction on the HOLOSUSTAIN project and the libraries coming up. But now to the first speaker of this session. Now the first presentation will be on the current framework for sea cucumber fisheries here in Iceland. And we have 2 presenters. The first one will be Jónas Jónasson from the Marine and Freshwater Research Institute in Iceland. And then Erna Jónsdóttir from the Ministry of Innovation and Industry in Iceland will continue. So Jónas, you should be able to share your screen. We see your screen, Jonas.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Do you hear me quite well?
We hear you well. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Excellent. Okay, welcome. And it's nice to be on this conference about sea cucumbers, my first for the cucumbers. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the fisheries and advice in Iceland. And I work at, like Ólafur said, at the Marine and Freshwater Research Institute back in Iceland. And we deal with the advice to the government on how much should be fished of the species. So just a little bit background, but I'm sure most of you fellow knows that we are dealing with the orange-footed sea cucumber, or brimbútur as it's called in Icelandic. And Cucumber frondosa, the target species here, is usually caught in our waters between 10 and 100 meters. And all kind of biological parameters are a little bit not clear, but they can possibly reach 25 years of age from experiments from aquaculture. Maybe that's going to be discussed more today, I'm not sure. And in Canada, it takes about 10 years to reach 25 to 30 centimeters. And we have the spawning time in Iceland is May or July. So, and this makes, everything about the assessment, really difficult, that we don't have those key biological parameters. But an experimental fishery started here in Iceland in 2003 in this area in blue, which is situated in the fjord of Breiðafjörður. And maybe there's going to be discussed more later on here, I'm not sure. But little was landed until 2008. And then fishing was initiated in Faxaflói, or this area E. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the areas later. But there were catches there around 800 tons, around 1,000 for all areas combined in the year 2008. So the Faxaflói was the most important areas. And all the information I'm going to present, are more or less found in the documents or the assessment reports and the advice sheets that you can find on this link above. So if you have more interest or curiosity, you can you can click on this and have a look look on those documents. So, but this is what we are. This is the situation now in Iceland. We have 8 management areas which are listed from A, B, C, D to H, and Erna is going to talk a little bit more about the reason or more about the management itself. I'm going to talk more about the advice, but within each of those rectangles, you can see those green areas, and these are based on the VMS records or for the locations of the fishing activity from the fleet. So this is boats fishing for sea cucumbers at a given speed, and kind of cumulative records within each areas. And further, you can see in those rectangles here, like rectangle C, you have those blue lines, and those are fjord areas which are currently closed for activities, fishing activities of sea cucumbers. So it's spread more or less on the western shore of Iceland and also on the eastern shore. So the southern shore of Iceland is mostly sand, so there may be few possible areas for cucumbers there, but there could be some more feasible areas, and there have been some experimental fishing up in the northwestern part of Iceland, but a little bit the area north of Iceland has been explored, but possibly there could be more fishing grounds there in the northern part of Iceland. So these are kind of the catch history in Icelandic waters. You can see here in blue, which is area E or Faxaflói, where the fishery kind of initiated, where bulk fishery started in 2008, and you can see this blue color goes. It's a little bit more or less the main areas for the first years, and then it has been quite important for all of those years. And then we have some input from area A in 2009, which is in orange. And then from 2010 and 2011, the fishing activity also start in the eastern part of Iceland. And those areas are light gray and gray. And you can see, for example, in 2011, which was a peak year, there is a substantial fishing activity in area G in the eastern part of Iceland, and also a little bit from area F. And there is this first peak like I said, in 2011, and that was mainly because of marketing reasons and the price of cucumbers. So there was quite a lot of interest, and the fishery was going well. And then the effort decreased, and then there was, from 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19, there has been an increase in effort, and I guess the markets in Asia have been better again. And more or less around the year 2018, other areas also kick in. There is quite a lot of fishing activities in area H in 2018 and 19, for example, but also from area B in the western, from the northwestern part of Iceland, which is this red color, in year 2018 and 19. So there has been a lot of fishing pressure on sea cucumber grounds for the past, well, I would say, for the past couple of years, but also year 2016 and 17, they were record year as well. So this is kind of the history of the catches around Iceland. If you go into Caspi unit effort and we look at that by area, so this is just raw Caspi unit effort index, and the longest history and the most continuous one, of course, comes from area E in Faxaflói, close to Reykjavik. And Caspi unit effort is kind of increasing in that region until 2012, but since 2012 it has been decreasing, and there has been, well, a little bit increase for the past year, but overall trend has been a decreasing trend from 2012. The same can be said about the areas G and F in the eastern part. We start fishing there in 2009 this is just a little bit small experimental fishing, but in 2010 and 11 the fishery there pick up, and with relatively high Caspi unit effort, more than 1,000 kilos per dredge per hour, but since then it goes down and levels out around 2017. And then we have some shorter indices for other areas. But it has been a downward trend, and that's something that can be expected on a virgin ground, that we would see initially we would see a downward trend in the Caspi unit effort as we are fishing on a virgin ground, but this has been quite a lot of, well, substantial decrease in the Caspi unit effort. And some of that is also due to that people are fishing also in worse weather as we are fishing more. So it's not only that, the catch rates are going down, but also that the fishing activities takes place, also during the winter months here in Iceland. So some of that could be also weather dependent. So a little bit summary to that the catches have fluctuated somewhat due to marketing reasons, but during the past 3 years they have increased steadily, and landing reached close to 6,000 tons in 2018, a little bit less in 2019, and which was an almost twofold increase from the previous year. So there has been a lot of increase in the fishing activities, and at the same time there has been a downward trend in the Caspi unit efforts. And also the vessels have become larger, and now most of them operate with 2 beam dredges, and that's something that we take into account when we are calculating the Caspi unit effort. And the image show maybe a typical sea cucumber dredge and a boat side which is maybe the medium size now in the fleet, but they have been operating now with larger boats which operate with 2 beam dredges, and also are kind of, are not as dependent on the weather, but of course the boats are relatively small compared to larger trawlers. So a little bit more about the fishery, and there has been intense fishing recent years on virgin ground, which have been have been unregulated until almost now, and further there have been late closures which have resulted in increased effort. And Erna is going to discuss a little bit the management later on, but the advised area enlargement have lacked and been put forward later, along with other changes in the regulations of these fisheries, which has caused or a little bit opened up for this increased fishing. But now all new areas, they are now continuous to circumvent all those fishing around the edges of those areas. So we are more kind of, capable of dealing with fishing pressures within individual management zone. So, and below we can see some pictures of some boats. We have Friðrik Sigurðsson on the left, Klettur in the middle, and Eigi, which is maybe a little bit the boat size when the fishery started. So that's maybe initial boat size, but the other ones are some of those larger boats operating now in the fishery. And just a brief history about the advice from the institute. So in 2009, we based our advice on a limited dredge survey, and at that time we used 10% harvest rate. In 2012, we based it on, for the first time, on the Caspian Unit Effort Index and relatively coarse area estimates. So we a little bit overestimated the size of the area at that time. And in 2016, as we had increased fishing activities, we based our advice on the average catch of the last 6 years with 20% precautionary buffer. And that resulted in much less casts in some of the eastern areas. So in 2017, we scaled our advice to Area E, which is in Faxaflói, which had the longest catch history. So based on that, we were fishing close to 9 tons per kilometer squared. That was at that time based on the VMS data. And in 2019, we also included advised for new areas B, D, and 8. And that was based on the same logic as we had done previously, fishing around 9 tons per kilometer square, and based on the size from the VMS or for the fishing point from the fleet itself. And at that time, we lowered the advised in Area E because the Caspian Unit Effort had steadily been increasing in that area. So that was based on a precautionary buffer. But in 2020, for this year, we based it on the ICES Category 3.2 rule, which is used for data limited stock, and that was used in areas A, E, F, and G, where we have long enough index of Caspian Unit Effort. So this rule works like that. We have index A, which is a standardized Caspian Unit Effort of the last 2 years. So we standardized that after seasons, after fishing boats and areas, and then that was divided by index B, which is a standardized Caspian Unit Effort of the 3 previous years prior to A, and that is then multiplied with the previous advice. So for areas where we had long enough catch history, we used that rule of thumb, but the same advice was applied for the new areas. So this is a little bit of history, and which is talked about in details in our reports. And so here you can see again the Caspian Unit Effort Index, but on the right-hand side, you can see a standardized version of the same thing for Area A, E, F, and G. And the red line are corresponding to Index A and Index B in our assessment. Relatively simple rules. So you can see in Area E, this is decreasing, and the advice in that area has been decreasing as well. It increased in Area A, so our advice has gone up in that region, and it has a little bit been stable in Area F and Area G. And in the image below you can also see our areas again. So this is a little bit where we're working at the moment. So this table shows you the recommendations and landings by area, and for area A, B, to H, and for the past fishing seasons or the fishing season 2019-2020, the advice was almost, or the fished almost according to the advice. So the fishing pressure has gone down from 2019. So 2020 we're going to fish considerably less than that. So we are a little bit getting better grip on the fishery in that sense. So hopefully we can fish according to the advice in the past or in the coming years, and hopefully we're going to see some positive trends as well regarding the efficiency of the fishery, and also and just a little bit about what we're doing at the moment. So we have been using fishery-dependent indexes, but what we want and really want is to have some fishery-independent indices. Look at some survey data which are highly standardized and that we can compare between years. So we have a groundfish beam trawl survey currently operating in our waters, which is addressing flatfish, or mainly juvenile flatfishes in shallow areas around Iceland. So in 2020, or just in September, we enlarged that survey to include most of the fishing grounds for sea cucumbers. And you can see those pink dots. Those are the tows that we took that were aimed directly for sea cucumbers with that large stretch. And we were quite successful. We got a lot of cucumbers in many of those areas. Of course, this is a large beam trawl, and we were expecting that. And we have now our first indexes of cucumbers with that, from that survey. So, and just one snapshot of the first survey indices, and we can see here for area A, B, E, F, G, and H, and we can see that this is cuts or kilos per towed mile, and they are relatively stable between areas. Area E, if you remember, we have been reducing our advice in that area, so we were getting per tow mile, we were getting lowest catches in that area, which was not, it was a little bit expecting, but on some of those new areas like area H, we were getting maybe a lower index than expected. And we split up our index into whole, which is just the cucumbers as they come on board, and then a quick drained index when we open them up and we drain them for 4 or 5 seconds each animal. So, and this is also of interest that we can see huge difference between areas. If you compare, for example, area A to area G, that the difference there between the whole index and the quick drain index is not so much, but it's more than double in area G. And those cucumbers, they had really thin walls, and they were just full of water. So they were just like big balloons full of water, while the others had much thicker wall, and I guess they were of a better quality than those in area G. So there's some other interesting stuff coming out of this our first survey. So just to summarize that up, and this is maybe that that the world history of sea cucumber fisheries is usually a sharp increase and fall in most regions, a little bit what we have seen here in Iceland. The catch effort has decreased on all areas that have been fished for some time, and new areas show rather quickly sign of utilizations. And there is huge uncertainty about the biological parameters in Icelandic waters, and also about the environmental impact of the fishery, which I haven't discussed in those slides. And And it is a common goal of all bodies, the government and also the industry, which we work quite well with, to control the fisheries in a sustainable manner, and also, you know, not to put too much pressure on the ecosystem. So this is a relatively young fishery. It has seen, like most fisheries, up and downs, but you know, we are now at a stage that we will have a relatively stable fishery. So that's our kind of our goal. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jonas, for this lecture. Erna, there were some questions, but I think we will maybe try to address them after the session. Erna, you can continue. You should be able to share your screen, and you need to unmute, Erna.
Morning. Do you see my screen?
Yep, we see it. Thank you.
And you hear? Okay. Sorry.
We hear well.
Yeah. Okay. So good morning. My name is Erna Jónsdóttir, and I'm a lawyer at the Fisheries Department at the Ministry of Industry and Innovation. And as Jonas showed you here, the fishing of sea cucumbers has increased in the recent years. And I think it's safe to say that our legal framework was not ready to handle it. So I will explain a little bit about how the Icelandic fishery management system works and how the sea cucumbers do not fit in there. So our fishery management system is based on 4 essential pillars. First, we have the recommendation from the MRI, the ministerial decision on the total allowable catch issued every year. And on base of that, the allocation of individually transferable quotas to ships on the basis of their fixed quota shares. This system has been in place for, well, since almost 40 years, in some, at least 30 years. And the TAC defines the overall quantity over 1 year that the ships can fish, and it's distributed in accordance with their fixed quota share of the TAC. And this system has proven to be quite sufficient management tool. It's good for controlling the catch for each stock. It provides certain flexibility for the operators, and it's also considered to promote sustainable fisheries. We also have other management tools because not all stocks are managed by the total allowable catch, and then we have the fishing permit for specific stocks, a limited number of days, and for the respective fisheries or the area restriction. In a very simple manner, you can say that this is the predecessor before you have the total allowable catch control or TAC control. And these, when we use these measures, it's usually because we don't need to limit the total catch, or the catch is lower than the advice for the MRE, or there is no advice for the MRE because it's maybe a species that is mostly bycatch. So for the recent years, we have been managing sea cucumbers, and every year we issue nine permits, and each permit is valid for 8 fishing zones. I think it's now that they cannot fish outside of the zone. It used to be free to fish outside of the zone, but now I think it's restricted for them. So nobody can fish outside of the zones unless you have a special permit from the ministry. The MRI gives recommendation for each fishing zone, and that means that we try to have close monitoring of the landing of catch within each zone. And then the zones are closed when the MRI's recommendation is reached, or we try to close the zone before it's reached. This system has many downsides. It's quite ineffective control of catch in each area because it's difficult to see the total landing on each time, or we usually close the zones too late, so they have fished a little bit too much. It's a very burdensome administration because the director of the fishery has to have close eyes on the landing within each zone, and then we have to issue regulation to close the zones when they have reached the MRI's recommendations. And it's also not good system for the operators because both they do not have, it's quite uncertain where are they gonna, or how they can not really organize their operation for the whole fishing year because it's a race to get the catch before the next one or other people with a permit will get the catch. So why is sea cucumber not managed by TAC? And I think the short answer is that it's because of insufficient legal base for our desired control. So when stocks are managed by total allowable catch, fixed quota shares need to be allocated to ships. The law provides that this is done on the basis of their catch performance of the respective marine species for the last 3 years. And this has been debatable whether we can have a territorial total, or if we can divide the total allowable catch into territories. The law does not provide for the possibility that fixed quota can be allocated territorially. So it has been interpreted that if you want to have a species subject to the total allowable catch regime, the total allowable catch will be valid, or the catch quota will be valid for the whole economic zone or exclusive economic zone. And in light of the current control and the uncertainty of whether the areas where sea cucumbers can be found, it has not been feasible to close the exclusive economic zone for the fishing of sea cucumbers because we only know a few areas where they are. So that has been our main problem. And now we are trying to draft a legislation that will allow us to allocate fixed quota shares territorially, and this will be submitted to the parliament this fall, and we of course hope that it will go through the parliament. It's difficult to say, but this is how we will try to fix the problem. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Erna. This was quite interesting. And now we know something on the current framework of the sea cucumber fisheries here in Iceland. Now, next one to talk is David Freyr Jónsson. In the program, actually, Kári Pétur Ólafsson is listed, but David is replacing him, and he will give a talk. David Freyr is the CEO of Aurora Seafood. He will give a pitch on the company, Aurora Seafood, which provides fresh live seafood worldwide. Erna, okay, you should be able to share your screen, David.
Can you hear me, Ólafur?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Very good.
And we're just waiting for you to share your screen.
Just to mention that Aurora Seafood is a member of HOLOSUSTAIN, so they are a partner of the project.
Thank you. Let me see. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much, Oliver. This is like it should be, I hope.
Yeah, now we see your control mode, and I assume you want to show it in the display mode.
I'm trying to. Let me see.
Yeah.
Slideshow mode should be on now.
Yeah,
but it is
on.
Not.
Yeah, no. So it's.
Okay, so you can see the shares like they are now, and you can see the moves.
Yeah. This is fine. This is okay. This is fine.
Yeah.
Let's just stick with this. Okay.
You can, when you do the mode, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Go in there.
Yes.
And then go on the top display setting, and you can remove the presenter mode.
Like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna pitch and go a little bit a short presentation of the company Aurora Seafood and a little bit through the development of sea cucumber fishing in Iceland to give you some viewpoint from the companies that have been exploring and utilizing the sea cucumber. The utilization starts in around 2003 after explanatory fisheries 2003. And they start in the fjord of Breiðafjörður by a company named Reykofnin and Kári Ólafsson, who has been the pioneering developer of the fisheries. Development took a lot of time, and the real catches didn't start until around 2008, like Jonas went through previously. And they peak around 2011, where they drop again and slowly build up until 2014-15, where they explode again until around 2018. Many of the companies in the development year did not manage to set foot in the fisheries. There's a lot of difficulties to develop a fishing like this, and most of the companies have not managed to live through that phase. In 2014, Reykofnin stopped producing after a market crash following a public policy changes in China. In 2013, where prices and demand dropped quite drastically for a serious amount of time. Aurora Seafood starts production 2015, where we pick up Kári Ólafsson, the founder and CEO of Reykofnin, and Bergur Garðarsson, the pioneering captain from the sea cucumber fishing development since 2003. And Kári is also one of the shareholders in the company today. The Aurora Seafood is founded by me, Davíð Freyr Jónsson, and Gunnar Þór Gunnarsson. We hold 2 fishing vessels here in Iceland and around 30% shares in a company named Vestfiskur Flateyri that owns 1 vessel as well on the Westfjords. Aurora Seafood processed around and sold around 45% of all sea cucumber produced in Iceland in 2019. So the operation of the company is quite simple. We operate, the core of the company is simple. We operate 2 ships, Klettur, which is here in the top right corner, and Drangur, who's in the top left. These ships used to be a small trawler and a small Danish seither, and they operate with 2 sea cucumber sledges. We also operate a company or a project and founded by Horizon 2020, Research and Innovation Council of the European Union. The project focuses on 3 things: fishing gear development and testing, where we have been formally developing the fishing gear here in the fleet for over almost 10 years. We have been testing the fishing gear towards environmental constraints and effects, comparing that with the ski dredges that are formerly known in Canada. A processing machine development that we have been doing with a processing machine companies here in Iceland that have been progressing nicely but slowly, and commercial activities such as helping sea cucumber fishing development in the neighboring countries. Other projects we have been working on is the HOLOSUSTAIN project that we are at the presentation is today. Starfish utilization, which comes as a bycatch in the sea cucumber fishing and is a predator for the sea cucumbers, and we feel it's important that we also try to utilize them, and a small sea cucumber development project in Africa. In short, I wanted to catch up on two things. Adding on top of this is that the fisheries here in Iceland, the fishing system in general, has been evolving quite rapidly over the last 5 to 10 years, where this has changed from being a free-for-all fishing until it was license-based around 2009, if I remember correctly, where there are only 9 licenses allowed today. There was no restrictions about how the boats could possibly operate their fishing, how many fishing gears they could operate with, etc., which left the fishing peaking in 2018 in an Olympic fishing competition. That has been very difficult, very expensive, and hard for the companies to kind of manage in this environment. Now, like Erna says from the Ministry of Fisheries, they're trying to control the fisheries a little bit more, and by banning fisheries outside of the fishing zones, we have been kind of left with much limited possibilities of finding new areas, and it has become very expensive and slow-some process to move forward with that. And on top of that, to give you a little bit view on the coronavirus, the demand and prices have been falling quite drastically over the last 1 or 2 months since we were not fishing in the beginning of the summer. And this has been growing over the last 5 years, and now is the first time we can see that there are difficulties on the market, and they are quite serious. I hope this gives a decent view of our company and our operation, and I was asked to have the pitch very short, and I hope I succeeded with that. Thank you guys for the attention.
Well, thank you, David Freyr. This was a nice presentation. Now we go to Port Orbake. You should be able to share your screen, Port.
Yes, I will just get it into view here.
And if I can continue the introduction, Port Orbake from the development section, Fisheries Administration in Norway. Port is going to talk about status and strategy for utilization of sea cucumber in Norway.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yep, we hear
Perfect.
you. Fine.
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
My name is Bård Orbake. I'm a fisheries biologist from the Directorate of Fisheries. My official title is advisor from the development section. And I'm going to talk a little bit about status and strategy for utilization of sea cucumber in Norway from my department's side, Directorate of Fisheries. But I just want to say something about our main objectives, because our goal is to promote profitable economic activities throughout sustainable and user-oriented management of marine resources and marine environment. And this is quite hard when it comes to this with different species of sea cucumber. And we have had quite a lot of challenges with this sea cucumber. And I really appreciate the Icelandic presentation of the Icelandic system, and I see that you're way ahead of us in regard of fisheries, and at least the management of sea cucumber. Because in Norway, it's quite clear underutilized resource. Almost everything which is caught as bycatch from shrimp trawling and virgin lobster trawling.
Bort, sorry, your microphone seems to be somehow unstable.
Okay.
Is it a computer microphone or on?
It is my headset.
Yeah, so you just have to keep it somehow.
I can try to keep it like this.
Yeah.
Or you talk closer to the computer if you can. That helps.
Yeah, I use it on my headset.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Okay,
No,
I can just take this slide once more. Sea cucumber is quite clearly an underutilized resource in Norway, and almost everything which is taken as bycatch from shrimp trawling and virgin lobster trawling. And since 2007, there's been landed approximately 24.5 tons, mainly red sea cucumber, and it's not a lot at all. But we have seen an increase in the activities the last 2 years. So from 2018 is landed 16.6 tons. Most of what is landed is from 3 areas. It's Skagerrak down in south and Egersundbanken, and you also have some landings from Frøyabanken, Storgrunn, and some more scattered around. And nothing is landed north of the red dot in the map here, which is drawn from Lofoten. And we also know that there is a certain amount which is not reported in landing because it's taken in a mixed fisheries after other species, and some of it goes to fowl and oil, which is unfortunate. In terms of regulations, we don't have any on specific on sea cucumbers. Everything who regulates the sea cucumber is regulated throughout our regulation around fishing gear, and also the bycatch law. Yeah, the amount of sea cucumber fisheries isn't large enough to kind of start regulating it, but we are prepared if we come into a situation where we need to regulate it, and it would probably start with the areas opening for a certain time and then move on. But we will develop something with the research institutions in Norway if we come to that phase. And most of the regulation is throughout a law called HOLOSUSTAIN and deltakerloven, if someone is interested in looking at it. We have actually been giving dispensation for fishing sea cucumber since the 1980s. And this was usually done with trawl equipment with some small adjustments. But from 2017, we do not allow that anymore. And it has a lot of different reasons, mainly because of the high amount of bycatch and lack of reports, but also because we had companies coming in without a trawl permit who wanted the dispensation and then started fishing, and they got really high amount of other valuable fish species as anglerfish and redfish, and next to none sea cucumber. So now we are more restricted. Today, as we speak, there are 4 companies with a permit to test out new gear. And we only grants them 1 year at a time. More into the specific throughout this dispensation is we demand a new technology which should perform better than a trawl in terms of bottom impact and bycatch. And we really encourage everybody researching to have a research institution on the team. This is to ensure a sampling protocol, ensure a good report at the end of the dispensation, but also to stimulate the synergies with the research institution, because we don't know much about the sea cucumber. We know too little about the critical parameters as reproduction and how long time it takes for the sea cucumber to reestablish in an area after being fished. And in this permit, we restrict the area to make sure that not a lot of companies go into the same area and potentially fish it out or doing some damage to the population. Some of the new gears looks promising, at least in terms of our critical parameters, which is bottom impact and bycatch. I was on board one of these vessels a little bit over a year ago, and the technology caught almost every time clean sea cucumber catches. The picture on the right here is the one with the highest amount of bycatch, a small shark and a crab. And this is approximately 15 to 30 minute fishing periods. And the company has got a new permit with some efficiency measures to increase the catch. So hopefully they come up with something. So that was everything I can say about our strategy so far. We are prepared to put management measures into place if necessary. And you feel free to contact me on mail if there is any questions, or afterwards. I will be here whole day. Thank you.
Thank you, Bort. Thank you for this presentation. I think we all heard what you said, even though there were slight problems with the microphone. So we are a bit early with time, but I think we will just continue with the presentations and address questions later. Now, next speaker or speakers are Vicky Samuelsson and Gunnar Hølland from Air in Norway, which will give a pitch on the company, which is an exporter of wild Norwegian red sea cucumber. Vicky, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, are you seeing the presentation?
Yeah, we see the presentation. Great.
Great. Can you turn that down? Hi, my name is Vicky Green Samuelsson. I am CEO and co-founder of Air of Norway. We provide a seafood adventure from the oceans of the Vikings to the seekers of high quality and health. We have developed high quality products by working hands-on and with an attention to detail. We were created not long ago in 2017, and our home is Stavanger. It's the birthplace of Norway and its first Viking king. Because we've been working closely with the market since the beginning, we understand the importance of branding that emphasizes health and status. We produce high quality products that create value from catch to customer. We're not interested in selling raw material. Obviously, Norway doesn't have a lot of raw material to sell. Therefore, we create value by producing our products in Norway. We also have branding that connects with our Viking heritage, that bridges our culture with the Chinese through symbolism and storytelling. Carefully selecting the right distribution partners who understand customers in high-end segment who are looking for exclusive products, not high volume mass market. And I've just noticed that I have this little window here, so let me move that over. So I'm going to repeat myself again. We're creating value here in Norway by producing the dry product. It's taken us quite some time to develop the product that we have today, and this is our product. Over the past 3 years, we have done numerous iterations to achieve the quality of the dry product that you see in this picture. Within the first 3 months of our first visit to Asia, we had our first minimum viable product. 3 months after that, we had our second version of our product. And that was done hand in hand with Beijing's top 10 master chef that we brought here for Glamat. So it was actually the Norwegian population that tried the second version of our product. And then within 3 months after that, we had another product. Each time testing it very closely with the market. And we know that this is really important for targeting the high-end segment. Since then, we've had international sales to 10 different countries. And it's important to us to increase the status and the exclusivity by targeting the high-end segment through premium sales channels and restaurants. This is what was written up in Food and Wine magazine about Under when they first opened. So they grabbed the headline there with this note here: though common in high-end Chinese cookery, sea cucumber is rarely consumed in Norway, yet it will grace Under's menu. And it's that kind of thing that helps us tell the story and get the customer aware of our product. Emphasizing health through branding that combines Viking storytelling with Norway's pure wild nature, it is really important to us. And here you see again the use of branding and marketing with Viking power. And then further going into it with the nutritional content, which we've done studies ourselves with Nofima, and we've collaborated with the local research teams here in Norway as well to have better understanding of the benefits, the health benefits of our product. So the main point for us is we believe that people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. The goal for us is to do business with people who believe what we believe. So Gunnar and I are both owners and have worked side by side as we've cleaned and gutted sea cucumbers, as we've tested and tried numerous different species in dining situations. So we're really aligned in our strategy, and we really feel like we're in the same boat. We're on this adventure where it's just beginning here in Norway. And we've just heard that, you know, in Iceland, it's been quite some time, and they still feel like they're at the beginning of their industry building there. But what I think is really important for us is to note that this is really exclusive here in Norway. We've hardly had any catch. You know, you're comparing, you know, 6,000 tons in 2018 to 24 tons since 2007 in Norway, if I heard correctly. So I think it's really important for us in Norway to come out strong with a brand and to highlight this exclusivity. So we're interested in meeting like-minded partners who can help us streamline our operations, continue to deliver high quality, and scale up. So for instance, one of our examples of where we could use some help and get some better understanding from people who have been in the industry longer is any kind of automated equipment that can help reduce the handling during processing. And that's initially straight from fresh out of the water, or as we move into the drying processes. So we want customers to think of Air of Norway. We want them to think about this. Very simple message. Pure, it's coming from pure source. Wild, it's exclusive. And Viking power. We're selling Viking power. That is our product. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. This is very appealing. Looks nice. I would really like to test your product. Yeah, and you are then finished with your presentation. Okay. So yeah, so it's not Gunnar who's also going to speak. No, it's only you. Yeah, fine. Okay, then we turn to Ragnvald Martmann Moe from Algeton, AS Norway, which is an expertise in processing seafood, and he will present the activities of Algeton. Ragnvald, you should be able to share your screen now.
Yeah, can you hear me okay and see the screen?
Yes, this is nice. We see it.
Very good. I think I'm going to be unable to put it in any more presentation view than I lose my notes. So I think I'm going to stick with this if it's okay. I'm Ragnvald Martmann Moe, founder and leader of Algetun. Our core business is low trophic aquaculture and drying. We started out with seaweed for a couple of years, and we have since then moved up the food chain to what's called benthic species such as scallops and sea cucumbers and other bottom living creatures, sea urchins and stuff like that. We originally developed the drying technology for the seaweed need, where we had large, you could say catch, large harvest at a very short interval of time. So it needed to have a lot of capacity, it needed to be flexible, it needed to be energy efficient. That was some of the qualities that was required. So that we couldn't find that in the market, and neither could anybody else. So we developed it, got some support, developed it, and found customers for it, and that works well. It needs to be flexible to use for the rest of the, you could say, 48 weeks of the year. It's a little short with just the seaweed season. And the equipment, we sell the equipment, we rent it out, and we also do drying for clients. A third part of our business related to these main areas is research and development, and that leads us to the next slide. That's on the left, you can see people from Nofima and Orkla Toro, where we do have an ongoing research where we try to improve on the drying processes that they use. I think Orkla Toro is probably the largest provider of dry foods in Norway, at least that I'm aware of, and they have they're interested in improving that, so they have an ongoing research program that we are an industrial partner in, and we do all kinds of experiments with different vegetables and others, not only vegetables but other seafood for the most part. You see some of the equipment in the background. It's all on pallets, and it's easy to move around for different locations and on different, you could say, halls or facilities where we can install it. It could be inside the room or it could be outside of the room. hooks, so you could see right above these fine people is hooks for seaweed. So we hook up the rope for seaweed there, but this is shortly after the seaweed season. So the drying room, you could say, is in the storage where they stand now. That's where the drying takes place. So it's in that particular location is something like a 60 square meter, a little bit more, 66 square meter. And we have a piping going into the ducts going into the room next door, where we also do the drying there. So just by supplying in and out ducts to that room next door, we double the available area, and we need that for the seaweed, where we dry approximately a ton or two of remove of water every day, but we can easily scale up the equipment to double and triple that. That's absolutely no problem to remove. We have equipment for 6 tons now, and we can available, and we can add that up if that's, or increase that if it's any demand. And hopefully that could be the case for the sea cucumbers, that we could dry such amounts. But we also have smaller equipments for testing and smaller scale production. But this is our, you could say, the elements of the modules of the most demanded equipment. Okay, to the right, we're just doing some experiments to get this appealing color, or to avoid, you could say, the gray and white colors that the customers do not prefer. As you know, for this red sea cucumbers, we try to get a darker, more appealing color of it, and more what is pronounced, or some the spikes more. I don't find the English word for that, but more visible and to keep the spikes after drying. So that's a little bit about the research and development part of our business in general, and then we have some specific about the sea cucumbers. We are getting into the catch of the sea cucumbers. The bycatch is the most common by now, but we are going also specifically, we have seen how we can specifically go in and do the catching of it. So that's going to be very exciting. Hoping to get really started on that in the next few months. The pre-processing is, like Vicky said, we need to do it very carefully, all from the beginning, and do it semi-automatically. So the pre-processing is all the way from the catch to the drying part of it. It's very important. We are also looking into, like a side project, see if we can keep the sea cucumbers for a while. So sort of, it would be aquaculture, but not from the start. Then we will use the catch and see if we can get some business going, get the catch and see if we can improve on the quality and the meat content and the size for a few months or a year perhaps, and then do the pre-processing and drying of it. Just some fun stuff, interesting stuff that we will get into shortly. And the drying we have talked about a little bit. So we are eager to do any kind of cooperation with anybody, but this is our core business. It's not the marketing part of it, or the packaging, or the storytelling, as you can tell. That's not our strongest point. We like to produce the first steps and produce a high quality product for experts and people to export further now. If we have to, we will take the steps necessary, but but that's where we see we can contribute for the most, and we can easily scale up. We can do a lot of testing, and we can easily scale up with the equipment that we have, and we can easily adapt the equipment to whatever needs there is for this. So that was a few words about Algetun, and I'll be happy to answer any questions either by voice here or by mail afterwards, or in the chat, or whatever. So be free to contact me in any way you would like. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rögnvald. So now we planned a break, but we are quite early in time, so we have time for questions. You can just, well, maybe the best thing is to write the question down in the chat menu. Mira.
Yes, there is a question to Rögnvald, and after that Rögnvald had a question towards Jonas, which was already answered in the chat. I don't know if Rögnvald, you precise more explanation. Keep in mind there will be more time in the afternoon during the roundtable also to discuss this thoroughly. But Karin's question to Rögnvald, she asks if you could clarify the drying principle of your equipment.
Excellent question. It's absorption, so it just removes the water from the air. So we can do it at low temperature. We can increase the temperature if that's wanted, but we can dry at a very low temperature. So it's absorption.
As a principle.
Maybe.
Yeah. And would it be possible to mention the temperature range you usually use specifically for the sea cucumber, for example?
Sure. The most energy efficient temperature would be in, you'd say, something in the 20, 30, 35 degree area. But it's easy to cool it at a lower temperature or higher. But it would not be as efficient energy-wise. You know, electricity is very inexpensive in Norway, so it's not that important just for the cost of it. But of course, we would like to do it as efficient as possible. But you could say that the normal doing nothing, it's in that range, 20 to 35 degrees, and then we can easily make adjustments to lower and higher temperatures.
Okay.
We also doing, I would like to say also, this is the main and the big volume drying. We're also doing a little bit less drying volume with reduce vacuum.
Vacuum drying, yeah.
Freeze drying and vacuum drying. We know how to scale it up, but we haven't proved our case for that yet. But if the business case is there, we will definitely get into it.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you, Rögnvald. Would you like to precise further a question to Jonas, or we leave this for the afternoon session?
No.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions to the speakers so far? No, it seems there are no. If you want, we can all take a break.
Yeah, we should have a break and meet again at, well, we have half an hour break. According to the...
No, it was 15 minutes. If you want, we put 20, just because we are kind of 5 minutes ahead of the schedule. So like 20 in 20 minutes. And sorry, would you advise coming out, leaving the meeting, or we keep it open?
We keep it open. We should keep it open.
Okay.
And yeah, okay, 20 minutes, and it's quarter to 10 or quarter to 12.
Okay, thank you.
Quarter to 12, we start again.
Yep. Okay. See you soon.
See you.
Thank you.
just call to Charlotte. Charlotte, please, could you switch off your, mute your microphone, because there were some comments that there is a background noise and it's the only one besides the speakers that is open. Thank you. I said 20 minutes because like that people, if they have a delay, they'll have 5 minutes more to come up. And then there are also a few minutes for Gida more to present herself and, you know, on top of the 10 minutes she has for the presentation because they're sharing. So it seemed adequate that we start like 5-10 minutes earlier than the previous time. I can't hear you.
I missed the start. What did you say, Mira?
No, I'm just telling you, explaining about the half an hour that actually I said 20 minutes because like that people have 5 minutes together who is missing, you know, like we wait 5 minutes more, but we give them some marge to appear. And then also there will be a little bit more time for Gida to present herself before she starts the presentation.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we start, quarter to.
In five, like, a quarter.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, now it's 9:45, and we should maybe start the second part of the first session. Is there something you want to say, Mira, before we start?
No, it's just we give a little bit of time to people to come back, but
Maybe.
So a few minutes more.
Okay.
And then
just tell me when to start.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. There is one more question to Ragnvald now in the chat.
Okay.
We could probably take care of it before the next session starts, because it's more focused. I mean, next part of the session, it's more focused on aquaculture.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ragnvald is already back. No, I think not yet. I see the beautiful sea background, but he's missing from it. So shouldn't be back yet. Yeah. Olafur, just to ask you, I don't know, since I had to log out and log in again, I'm not sure I'm a co-host.
Okay, I will check it out.
Because this microphone issue that was in the first part of the session, in the chat, I wasn't able to mute.
Okay, I will make you a co-host again.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem. So you should be co-host.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's see. Yes, so Ragnvald is back. Hi, Ragnvald. Sorry, there is a lot of interest towards your activity. So there is one more question for you, and we were thinking if you could answer it before we start the aquaculture part of the session.
Sure. You're thinking about the type of license you have to produce the sea cucumber?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we are just testing. So we have not produced and exported, and we're just finding the solution and ready to scale up. So we haven't applied for the improvements to Mattilsynet and other places. We haven't even fixed on a location at this very moment. We have several that's available to us. But we have this is on a research and development, and we have some solutions, and we hope to improve on it. But we are not in a production state per se.
Yeah, thank you. This is a question I know that Maria will probably raise at the round table, because there are several companies that are interested actually to file new food claims with the EFSA. If possible, of course, and this takes quite some time and effort. So that's the background of the question. Okay, maybe 2 minutes more and then we start.
Okay.
Yes. There is nothing more on the chat regarding this. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Okay, then we'll
proceed
start
further.
again.
Yeah.
And now we will have 3 presentations on the aquaculture of sea cucumbers. The first one to talk is Gyða Kristoffersen, Møreforskning in Norway. And she will talk about the aquaculture for the North Atlantic species of sea cucumber. Now, Gyða, I think I have to make you co-host.
Now I'm muted. Oh yeah, okay. Shall I share the screen now?
Yeah, if you can. Okay. Are you available? No, I'm going to make just a minute.
Not.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
You can try now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, we can see the slide now.
Good.
If you want, put the presenter's mode on.
What's the presenter's mode? What do you mean?
Like the full screen, if you want, whatever feels better.
But you see the full screen now, don't you?
Now we see the PowerPoint as if you are working on the presentation.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then we move from fisheries to aquaculture. This first part is a dual Scandinavian presentation. So I start with myself. I'm a researcher at Møreforskning and have been working on new marine invertebrates, mainly scallops in the past and now sea cucumbers, to trying to get aquaculture up and running, hatchery, production, nursery stages, etc., etc. I have my degrees from the University of Bergen, aquaculture degrees and doctorate, and I have worked also in at the Technological Institute with a lot of aquaculture related projects, and now I've been 4 years in Møreforskning, and now it's all about seafood and promoting seafood and new species and new raw materials. A little bit about Møreforskning, which is situated in Møre and Romsdal County, one of the most beautiful counties in Norway, and it's indicated in red in the map. We have 3 offices in Ålesund, Molde and Kristiansund. I'm based in Ålesund, which is one of the largest fishing ports in Norway. So it's a very good place to be regarding seafood. We are a non-profit regional institute with approximately 50 employees, and we are working interdisciplinary and conduct applied research on marine and social sciences, transport, economy, and logistics. And the project reflects the regional, national, and international priority areas. Møreforskning has traditionally targeted new and unexploited seafood resources, and including the sea cucumbers. And they started working on utilizing sea cucumbers in 2004, and since 2016 we have had an aquaculture approach as well. The target species is Parasticopus tremulus, and we have projects along the entire supply chain. Our project portfolio related to sea cucumber aquaculture covers national and international collaborations, and we are involved in a broad range of projects with entrepreneurs and fishermen. Some you have already heard speaking. it's a pleasure that they have had the opportunity to attend this meeting. We have projects considering harvesting, handling, and processing, as well as aquaculture. The pictures show some of our sea cucumbers being given a feed it seems they like. I'm showing this world map to illustrate that sea cucumbers exist in all oceans and that it's a group of high diversity. It's more than 1,200 species registered globally. In Norway, we have more than 30 species described. And for instance, in Southern Africa, more than 160 species are identified. In this workshop, we are target species mainly within the NORA area, which I have indicated in the red circle, which is a sub-area of the North Atlantic, which is the dotted line. It's a rather limited part of the world's oceans and species. So, is sea cucumber aquaculture doable as far north as we are? The status was the first part of the talk. This is quite simple to answer because we have no commercial sea cucumber producers in Europe at present, to my knowledge. And there is currently no aquaculture on the North American Atlantic side. There is, however, ongoing hatchery attempts at the R&D stage, several places in Scandinavia, Iberia, France, and also in countries bordering the Mediterranean, which is outside our area. Several research initiatives have been made to establish breeding protocols, mainly for Holoturia species, but also now recently for Parasticopus tremulus and from before also Cucumaria frondosa. Common constraints hindering the development of new aquaculture industries are irregular spawning, high mortality rate during early life, small scale juvenile production. It's always an investment need to be able to scale up. And also, as mentioned by previous speakers, we need legislation that fits our purposes. It is a high demand from Asia and it's continuously rising. This is why sea cucumbers are now in the spotlight from our waters. It's due to the high Chinese domestic market demand, and also we have seen overexploitation of species in tropical waters. And this map and figure from Purcell et al. Shows the number of endangered and vulnerable sea cucumber species in Pacific and tropical waters mainly. And this should be a warning to our managing authorities regarding the Atlantic resources. For an industry based on North Atlantic species to prosper, access to enough raw material is critical. And as listed here, this can be obtained from bycatch, as in Norway, it's only bycatch at the moment, or targeted fisheries, as in Iceland. We can think that capture-based aquaculture can be a solution. Intensive aquaculture involving hatchery and nursery, land-based, co-cultivation, different species, sea ranching, meaning that you are putting hatchery-raised juveniles to the sea and you harvest them back from a limited area. And also the possibilities of integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, IMTA, which is a quite popular approach. So, see, in addition to the fisheries, aquaculture can definitely be a solution to supply the market with sea cucumbers. At the moment, as we know, the largest production or the main production is in China, which are the only country having really large-scale production. Of the global production, approximately 30% comes from aquaculture. This number varies with the sources you are reading, so I also seen that 50% is coming from aquaculture, but I think it's more close to 30%. And this is mainly the species reared in China, Aposticopus japonicus. Since there's a great demand, that means it's a large potential also for novel species to be introduced to these markets. From the Nora area, the red sea cucumber and the orange-footed sea cucumber are considered potential aquaculture candidates. I see we like to call it the Norwegian red sea cucumber, but there will probably be others that are not totally agreeing that it's only a Norwegian species. For those of you that have experience with pioneering work on producing marine species, you know that it's a bumpy road and it's a great challenge to obtain full control of the production, especially to master the early life stages. The performance is species specific and knowledge about other species may or may not be transferable. Closing the life cycle, which means that you have control of spawning, fertilization, larval development, and growth of the specimen until they are reaching sexual maturity, is required to achieve sustainable aquaculture independent of wild animals. What's also needed are biological knowledge and fine-tuning of rearing conditions to develop protocols for predictable supply of commercial sized sea cucumbers. Commercial size can vary from juveniles to medium-sized and large-sized. That depends on market and what kind of production strategies we choose. Cucumaria frondosa is by far the most studied species of the Nordic species, and fundamental research on reproduction and early life stages have originated from the Hamel and Messier group in Canada since the 1990s. And the potential of the species in IMTA systems have been considered in Newfoundland and New Brunswick, and it's concluded that it has potential, but slow growth rate and a rather low value are limitations. We have to bear in mind we are dealing with cold water species, and growth rates can't necessarily be compared with the tropical species that are the main in production at the moment. Regarding the Parasticopus tremulus, so Møreforsking have described the annual reproductive cycle from sea cucumbers from our area, and this is an important starting point for controlled spawning and further hatchery production. We have also advanced by obtaining larvae 2 years in a row. Growth rates of juveniles and adults are unfortunately not known yet. So it's a lot of work and studies to be done. From the Norwegian perspectives, we have in the publication Marilanne Sunde and Christoffersen concluded that polyculture and IMTI, including sea cucumbers as well as monoculture, are conceivable prospects for Norwegian seafood production. Research effort is highly needed to fill knowledge gaps related to the early stages on our species and other local species and stocks. We have, as mentioned, described the reproductive cycle, so this also is what's needed for all new species in marine aquaculture. It's a complex process, bringing a new sea cucumber species to commercial cultivation, like this figure shows. Encircled here are parts of the process targeted by a joint research project we have which is initiated with researchers at the University of KwaZulu-Natal and DEF in South Africa. And the project is called Emerging Species for Sea Cucumber Aquaculture. And we are working on the Parasticopus tremulus, and the South African have 3 to 4 species they want to try to cultivate, and that will be totally new species they will try to introduce in the market. So we're following is a modified cultivation protocol. To sum up, if we manage to overcome these R&D challenges and allowing the development of an industry to take time, I believe there are great opportunities to cultivate sea cucumbers from our waters. We have to bear in mind the Chinese started working on cultivation in the 1950s, and they are still producing publications and studies and work. So these things takes time to really succeed. We need, as also previous speakers have mentioned, we need to advance the biological knowledge of our species we want in aquaculture. We need knowledge on life history parameters, performance in aquaculture conditions, and we need knowledge about our populations as it is, and also in a future changing environment. Optimizing hatchery production of juveniles. We need to develop effective production systems for further growth, land or sea-based, single culture, integrated culture, what would be the most effective. We need to focus on product development and food safety. And there's also a continuously need to obtain knowledge about established and new markets. With this, we have a dream that this will be our good growth from one year to another. And with this, I will give the floor to the representatives from the EU that will tell us further details about the studies on this sea cucumber, and also from France later. So this, Ellen, it's your turn.
Thank you so very much, Gyda. I'll need to be allowed to share the screen. Olafur, if you could please let me in on the magic.
Yes, one moment, please. So if I may also introduce you, Dr. Ellen Säkerström from Swimark Gothenburg University, and you will be presenting the breeding and rearing of Parasticopus tremulus. Correct.
Thank you, Olafur. So I will send this one up. There, and there we are.
Yeah,
so hello everybody. Thank you so much for organizing this workshop. It's lovely to be able to talk sea cucumbers with a lot of people. My name is Ellen, and I'm a marine biologist, and I'm working at Swimark, the Swedish Research Center for Marine Aquaculture at Gothenburg University. And I work together with Professor Kristina Sundell, who is also here and wants to say hello. Are you on, Sundell?
Yeah, hi everybody. Very nice to be part of this wonderful network. And since we are beginners, or not really, a little bit more now in sea cucumbers, Ellen will tell you where we are. It's really wonderful to be part of this network, and we hope for a lot of nice new collaborations to come.
Thank you. The same here.
Excellent. So we have been working with the Parasticopus tremulus for 2 years now. I have previous experience in working with the tropical sea cucumber Holosura scabra in the Philippines. The project is called Circular Marine IMTA, and the aim is to develop new circular sustainable production methods for a diversity of organisms in an IMTA setting. So the objectives for the project Sea Cucumbers, of which I'm working in, is to investigate how to develop a breeding protocol for the species, how to develop the larval rearing protocols once we get the breeding going, and also the farming conditions so that we have the right temperatures, salinities, etc. We also are aiming to look at the nutritional requirement. What kind of food do the sea cucumbers need for optimal survival and development? And also to characterize what role this sea cucumber can play in an integrated aquaculture system and how they can fit in the nutrient budget on how they eat the waste from other species, for example. And so far, we have begun these 2 years, and we have some results. We started with the studies on the adult animals, and we looked at how fast they were eating, how much organic matter they assimilated, and what grain size they preferred. This is needed in order to develop a proper feed for them. And we had a bachelor student that looked into this, and we could see that the feces production, which measures how much they eat per hour, increased with animal size, which is not really anything astonishing. It seems logical, but now we know. We also looked at the grain size they preferred, and there we could also see that the larger the animals, they could eat larger particles, and small animals preferred smaller particles. So again, this is something what one should take into consideration when making feeds and making different sort of textures of different feeds for different size groups. We also looked at the assimilation efficiency and ingestion rate, which is basically how much of the nutrients they eat do they actually take up and turn into new sea cucumber biomass. We could see that there is a correlation between the size of the sea cucumber and the efficiency with which they take up nutrients from the feed. And we also looked if the ingestion rate was affected by the organic content in the sediment. And we could clearly see that when there was more nutrients in the sediment, they didn't eat as much because they got what they needed through a smaller amount of the sediment. We also have a collaboration with Gyda Kristoffersen that we instigated in, was it February, 2 years ago, when we could still meet in person. And we looked at the controlled spawning and rearing of the first larval stage, the auricularia stage. And so Gyda and her crew did this up in HOLOSUSTAIN, and we did it here at Kristineberg. And then we compared, did we get them to spawn at the same time? How was the larval development time? And we could see here that with the different temperatures we tried, we could see that larvae had a higher consumption rate in a higher temperature. We tried 4 different temperatures because 7 degrees is pretty much what they have out in nature. But we also think that the larvae perhaps develop in higher up in the water column where it's warmer. And it's also a general rule that you can increase development rate a bit if you increase temperature. And we wanted to see if this was possible for this species, hence making it a bit faster from a growing perspective. And here we can see this lovely little larvae, and the little brown, almost pear-shaped bit, it's the stomach. And we can see this little individual is eating happily. The stomach is half full. We looked at the food amount they were given versus the temperature they had, again, and looked at how much that affected the survival. And we could see that too little food increased the mortality. They died. So there's a limit to how little food they must have. Again, not very astonishing results, but it's good to know where the limit of how much food they need is. We also looked at the effect of temperature on development in body length and could see that they grew bigger and stronger in warmer temperatures. And this year, we also managed to actually complete the life cycle, so that from the fertilized egg that we can see up here in the upper left corner, all the way to the cellular division, the auricularia stage, the dodularia contactula, and now we actually have a pair of juveniles in our basement. They're almost 2 millimeters and very cute. And I could bore you with baby pictures all day, but I'm not going to do that. although I really want to. So in the pipeline for the coming year that we have is physiological studies. We have a master student, and she's going to look at the stress test for these. What abiotic stress for temperature? What is their maximum temperature range of tolerance? She will then take this temperature and see where do they feel most comfortable, and then use that temperature for further feed preference studies. And there we will look at feed preference when it looks to enriched sediment with algae, bivalve feces, and fish feces, and combine them differently to see what will make them eat the best and grow the fastest and be the fattest. So Hansel and Gretel test. We will also continue to look at abiotic stresses later, salinity, pH, ammonium, and oxygen, which are parameters that we need to optimize any breeding and rearing conditions for them. And further, we will analyze parameters for ingestion rates, feces production, food conversion efficiency for these new developed feeds. And for next year's batch, when we hope to get even more juveniles, these tests will also be done on juvenile individuals, so we can get a better breeding protocol for them. Thank you so much for your attention. Any questions?
Hi, Ellen. I will just permit myself to ask if you and Christina could just share a little bit more details about your, about Svemark and the facilities and your general work capacities or interests also, just as additional information, a little bit, whatever you think might be relevant.
Absolutely. Christina, will you do that?
Okay, I can start at least and you can fill in. Okay, so Svemark is a university financed center with a little bit above 50 researchers that are members. And Svemark, Swedish Mariculture Research Center, meaning that it's a transdisciplinary center that includes departments from all faculties at Göteborg University, or many faculties. So it's national science, but it's also social science and arts and design, in order to give a more holistic view of development of sustainable aquaculture processes. So we are working with technique development, new species development, marine spatial planning, how to put it into the societal context. We are working also with markets, consumer attitudes, etc., etc. So we're trying to get the whole picture of development of sustainable aquaculture on board, so to speak, in the center. We have been going on for 4 years now, have 2 more years on this with this finances that we have now. But we hope to continue, of course, longer, because we have grown to be sort of a national resource when it comes to marine aquaculture. So we are also then, by that, Swedish representatives in many different collaborations and also different organizations when it comes to marine aquaculture. Facilities, we have Göteborg University has 2 wonderful, I would say, research stations, marine research station, the Kristineberg station and the Tjärnö station, in which we do a lot of this aquaculture research. So it's a lot of low trophic aquaculture. So seaweed, mussels, oysters, sea squirts, sea cucumbers. We hope to get into sea urchins, me and Ellen, very soon as well, because we are also working with the IMTA concept. And we do that also in collaboration with Norway. And we have with several places in Norway, actually. We are parts of the Control Aqua Center, for example, in Norway, which are working with closed containment aquaculture systems for fish. We are working together with the Brønnøysund and with IMTA, with the semi-closed systems in the sea and algae and mussels. and then with Gyda on the sea cucumbers, etc. Yeah, so these two research stations have facilities for low trophic aquaculture, but then we also have in Göteborg, in the facilities there, we have 4 recirculating aquaculture systems for fish farming. And also regarding fish, we are working with new species, so new marine species like wolffish and other. And there again, we have collaborations with the Nord University in Bodø, for example. So yeah, we are mainly targeting new species, new techniques for more sustainable marine aquaculture.
Okay, thank you, Christina. There has been one question to Ellen. Maybe we tackle this one before we give the word to the next speaker. So the question is, it looked like there was a little drop in feed between 10 and 13 degrees before increasing when it was in 16. Why was that?
The data presented there is raw data, so it's not the difference between them was not significant, and so the replication was, I think, 8 individuals per set. So it was just natural variation, but no significant difference.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Wolfur, if you want.
Okay, yeah. So, so the third talk is by Dr. Xavier Bali from Roscoe in France, the Roscoe Biological Station in France. And he will talk on the Holoturia forscali as an emerging model for aquaculture, an overview on the ongoing whole farm project. So Xavier, welcome to the workshop. You should be able to share your screen now.
Yes, exactly. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we hear you very well.
Okay, that's a good news, actually. Sorry to jump lately in this conference. I do apologize. I'm just trying quickly to share now.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
And then there is another share button here when you have chosen the screen. Or
no, that's sorry. Almost done. Sorry for that. Okay, should be okay. So, can you tell me whether you see something on your screen now?
Yes, we see the control mode. You want to show it in display mode? If you...
Can you see the first slide? No.
Yes,
no?
and the second.
And the second. So maybe it's not the right the right way. Sorry.
So now, if you go on the top to the left,
yes,
there should be an option where you don't want to duplicate your screen. If you, it's up left, I think, but this looks a little bit different.
Okay, wait. Maybe I can do something different. Sorry. Wait, let's do something different. Let's do like that. No, maybe not.
It was on the left side of your presentation. You had 4 buttons, so it was one of them that was saying.
Okay, maybe wait a bit. So can you see something right now or not?
No.
No. Okay, almost done. Okay.
Yes. If you want to use this mode, yeah, just go ahead. Don't worry.
Okay. So, I'm sorry. Maybe. Anyway, so good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. Talking about our program. I will speak for the next 15-20 minutes about the HoloFarm project. The main idea is to develop an innovative aquaculture based on the exploitation of the species Holoturia forscali. First of all, this program has been funded by the European Marine and Fishery Fund and will end around 2020. My name is Xavier Bailly, and I am currently working in the Marine Institute called La Station Biologique de Roscoff. On this slide, you can see the different partners that are involved in this project. There are 4 academics and 2 private ones. So we are all working in this area of France called the Brittany, on the extreme west of France. And most of the partners are either on the north coast or on the south coast of Brittany. And you can see different labs, like the natural history of the National Museum, the French one, also the one called AgroCampus, people more involved in the, let's say, farming aspect. This, at the bottom, you can see the Marinoe logo. This is one of the 2 private partners involved in the processing, cultivating, extracting compounds from algae, and doing also some food. Right on the left, you see this marine chemistry and biotechnology laboratory coming from the University of Brest, the city at the west of France, sorry. And on the top, you see the Station Brigitte de Roscoff, part of the member of Sorbonne Université. And you see at the top the CRC, that is the, let's say, a shellfish committee involved in managing, advising producers of oysters, mussels, and so on. So we all together now work on this species, and especially the reason why we decided to work on Holoturia forskelli is, of course, and I suppose it has been mentioned already during the first moment, there is a high demand on the Asian market concerning Holoturians, okay, because this is a traditional food, as we all know, and it is highly appreciated. The second aspect is that more and more people are trying to innovate, have different projects concerning new aquaculture, new techniques. So this is the aspect of new emerging aquaculture, including this multi-trophic technique. And also the idea of working on the aquaculture, on the farming of Holoturia forskelli, is to avoid eradication of this species because of overfishing tendency, I would say. So there are some different aims of, so we are running after, I would say. The first step is if we want to farm, if we want to cultivate this species, the idea is to complete first the life cycle in captivity. In other words, to have access to all the developmental stages, from the very early ones, like embryogenesis, larvae stages, access to the juvenile stage for growth. It's also a matter for us to know more about the biology, the behavior, the ethology, the diets of these animals. For instance, we are still questioning, and this is probably a basic question. If some of you have know the reply, the answer, tell me please. We have still, in the environment, we still do not know where are the juveniles. It's really amazing. Anytime I speak with the divers in charge of collecting these animals around Brittany, around the place we live, these professionals that knows much more than me, but that knows a lot the deep environment, they never observed juveniles, never small animals. It's really strange. We have no idea where they are. Or another type of question also is how to provide the right biofilm, the right microbiome, the right bacteria when these animals are in captivity. As you know, these animals mostly feed on biofilms, bacteria, and so on. And so we are still also investigating how to improve when these animals are in captivity, the access to this microbial food, for instance, using bioflok approaches. The idea also is, of course, controlling the reproduction. trying to find the right way to induce spawning and storage the reproducers, I mean the genitors, in the perfect environment in order they can be sexually mature when we need them. It raised the problem of deseasonalization. As you will see on one of the next slides, this species is as a specific period of sexual maturity. Our goal, of course, is to have access to the gametes at any time all along the year in order to start a production at any time, not only when these animals are sexually mature in the environment. And of course, one of the goals of this project is to evaluate the sexual maturity, the age of reproduction. These are data, these are aspects that we do not know. We work on the growth of in captivity, trying to adapt specific diets, trying to understand the strategy of how to feed, what time during the day. We are now performing. Unfortunately, this is under progress, so I will not show you that, hopefully the next time. But we are now doing some specific movies, trying to see the behavior of the animals in our tanks to see whether we could adapt the time of feeding, the amount of food, and so on. And then with some of my colleagues are also working specifically on this microbial consortium hosted in the gut of this animal, trying to understand the composition of the microbiome, but also sorry, some trying to identify some specific molecules that could have a specific and interesting bioactivity. So now, now something I wanted to tell you is we already published a paper, I think pretty easy for you to find it, that summarize what we have done concerning the characterization of the development, let's say the temporality of the development. And as you can see, we managed to identify all developmental stages from very early embryogenesis to late larvae stages through the metamorphosis in juveniles. And we have started 2 years ago to provide different, as I told you, diets for trying to optimize, I would say sometimes maximize the growth of the juvenile. Something that is a bit singular, or at least unique for this species, Holoturia forskelli, with respect to the other ones, is you can see on this scheme that the auricularia stage is far much longer than for any other species. You see, we go from early auricularia to late auricularia stage for almost one month, 30 days. This is something for us quite surprising. So we are trying to understand if our culture, if our techniques, or sorry, or the parameters we fix, like temperature, like other parameters, could influence or could this period, this long period of auricularia stage. So, ongoing works. Mainly, we are trying to bypass some specific bottlenecks, or we are trying to understand how to solve some different issues, like, for instance, unlocking the meiosis prophase in oocytes we collect by dissection. The main issue is always the question of maturity, fertilization. Sperm and oocytes are pretty easily accessible once you know how to dissect them. Because one of our main issue why we dissect, I would say quite a lot now, animals, is because we could not induce the spontaneous spawning. Again, even playing on the temperature, even trying to apply the well-known techniques that has been developed for other species, we cannot right now induce when we want the spawning. So we are still working on this aspect of using ovocytes by dissection, but again, raise a new problem, how to unlock this meiosis prophase step. So we are working on the use of different, let's say, different components. It has been already published in different articles, and mainly by works by, I forgot the name of my colleagues, shame on me. Anyway, some specific compounds has been identified, such as thioredoxin, that could help in unlocking this step. So we are working on that. In other words, artificial fecundation led to pretty low rate of fecundation, of fertilization, I would say. So we are still working actively on that. And the idea is to generate by artificial fecundation more and more embryos and developing larvae. Of course, the problem of deseasonalization is very important, as it is a matter of accessing to this T4, let's say T4 fecund tubules, when both male and female and male, sorry, are totally mature. So it has been already described in a very nice study in 1992 by Tuo and Conan, that Holoturia forscali exhibit specific sexual maturity in January, February, and March, when you see this T4 plus state or stage of ovocytes maturity. So indeed, the previous years, we managed to have pretty interesting results during this period, because of course, all the animals are more prone to reproduce easily or to provide good ovocytes. I mean, when I say good, sexually mature or ready to be fertilized ovocytes. So we are trying now also to enlarge this more than to have access only 3 months. We are trying to play with specific chronobiology, with light, and also with a specific temperature to maintain the animals in a specific condition that can really improve this sexual maturity and give all along the years access to ovocytes and sperm, or at least to sexually mature animals. I have written surprise because when I said at the third slide that we are also trying to improve our skills on the biology of this species, I don't know whether you heard about that, probably, but it is something that we are still trying to observe, but it is important to note also that these animals, they are able to clone more or less themselves. When you see, and if you read this article explaining that at the auricularia stage, you can have kind of buddings that really gives new animals. So this is also part of the biology that we are exploring in order to control as much as possible the life cycle in captivity and take advantage of this singularity, this biological singularity. Almost finished, more 2 slides more. Of course, the idea is to avoid this kind of destructive trolling or this overfishing. Of course, the idea of this project, and altogether, we think that we need more skill on population dynamics. We have no idea, or if you know works or people that are working on that, I would be really, really, really happy and interested to speak with them. We have no idea on the larval dispersion, on the adult migration, even if recently some people managed to show that these animals, they were able of floatability, like floating and moving using this floatability thanks to the currents. But we need to know much, much more about population dynamics. We have no idea, at least I have no idea, about the age of the reproduction. When animals are really able to reproduce, at what age? Again, questions very important and deep questions about lifespan. How long do they live in the environment? How can they survive in captivity? today, these are some things really important to tackle and to unravel, I would say, in order to really, really understand much, much more how to protect and maybe to control, thanks to regulations, all this biological resource in order to have, of course, sustainable fisheries, rather than to see this crazy harvesting at some places where there are still holoturia, because as you know, like me, in many places of the world, a lot of holoturian has been far overfished, and at some places it's like a desert. Of course, all these important questions will help for designing strategies of restoration and try to see how we can decrease the impact on these areas. I will quickly finish. I hope I'm not late now. Just to tell you that I would say, results are pretty promising. Of course, as you understood, there is still a lot of things that remain to be investigated and tackled. But something that I like to repeat to the people we work with is exploring the basis of holoturian aquaculture is a slow process with respect to the intensity and the ease of fishing. In other words, showing that that probably all people that are, most of the people that are attending to this conference, they are really probably, I hope, obsessed by cultivating in captivity in order to make and to develop smart, sustainable aquaculture, in order indeed to avoid this destruction of the capital. Maybe it's now, and this is the second remark, a commonplace, but I don't know how to tell that differently. Of course, it is urgent to preserve and to manage the resource, both from an ecological and economical point of view. I know it's a kind of banality saying that, but it's important to inform people that in order to avoid this kind of collapse, both ecological one and economical one, we must invest much, much more effort and money and human resources in completing this life cycle in captivity. And I like to speak, and I will finish with this last sentence, like a thought. I like when I teach and when I spoke to people, I like to remind that to get rid and domesticated cattle, the humanity has invested more or less 10,000 years. And we do not have this time for our purposes in holoturian aquaculture, but we must do it. In other words, it's time consuming. We have no time, but we are smart. We need to be funded, and we need to really work in a very cooperative way to be sure that we will manage to tackle all these bottlenecks, all these issues, and help holoturia aquaculture or holoturia fisheries to be much more reasonable, protected, and smart.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Xavier. We really share the same philosophy, and that's why the HOLOSUSTAIN actually was brought to life. I wanted to open just a few minutes to questions before we close the session, because the questions are to be to Gida or also to Xavier. There were already 2 questions to Xavier in the chat. So are there any questions to Gida, the first presenter on the session, this part of the session? Okay, if you want, please go ahead and put them in the chat, and I will read the first question to Xavier. So
it comes from Rachel Durand, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Xavier, why did you choose to work on the species Holoturia for Scali? We decided to actually, at the beginning of the project, we wanted also to explore and to work with 2 other species, Regalis and anyway, 2 other species. But okay, as you know, I mean, we were quite ambitious. But okay, with the COVID and with unexpected events like that, we decided to focus more on Holothuria forskelli because Holothuria forskelli is abundant. Holothuria forskelli is widespread all around Brittany, not only actually, and because also a colleague of mine has reported that Chinese people came and has tested eating Holothuria forskelli, and they said it was one of the top best flavored or good or whatever Holothuria. So one of let's say there is two reasons. Holothuria forskelli is easily accessible for us. It's quite widespread, and it seems it has a kind of value on the side of the quality of the food. Am I clear?
Yeah. Rachel? Okay. So there is one question to all the three presenters.
Can I say something very quickly?
Yes, please.
Thank you to Antonio. I forgot the name of my colleagues, Hiko, a few minutes ago, and thank you to remind me. Indeed, the team of Igor Eco work with thioredoxins, in order to unlock this meiosis step. And actually, just a very short detail, we are also trying, as thioredoxin is very expensive, we are also trying, based on the advice of Igor Eco, we are also trying to work with ovocytes of sea urchin that seems to be maybe prone or interesting as a source of antioxidant such as thioredoxin that could have a better impact on unlocking this meiosis step. So thank you, Antonio, for helping me for that.
Yeah, so there is a general question by Rachel again to all the three presenters, and Ellen has commented already, but if the larval cycle is longer than in other species, would that mean that the cultivation for production is longer? So Xavier and Guida, if you would like to answer also or make a comment.
Well, as Ellen answered, that the length will depend on how we manage to fine-tune and optimize rearing conditions in captivity. And we think they have quite high tolerance levels compared to what is given in nature, at least in Norway. We expect the growth to commercial size, that we're talking years and not months. But we don't know what we can expect or to achieve, and also it depends on what would be the right commercial size. It can be smaller than we think in the beginning, but we don't know. But we need to know something about what's in nature before we can start to manipulate in captivity.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Guida. Xavier, would you like to add something to that?
No, very shortly. Of course, we need to see the impact of different conditions, like playing on temperature, playing on the quality of food, and so on. Indeed, I hope that in captivity we could reduce the time of cultivation. But I was thinking to something else. I was wondering whether, from a let's say, if on the market, young Holothuria, like maybe juveniles, could have such a good flavor, such a good taste, that they could have a kind of a good value for commercialization. And I was just wondering whether the idea is to produce big, adult, huge animals, or if some juveniles, again, in our place that are not accessible to for collecting them, we don't find them. I was wondering whether it could be also an opportunity to test and to see whether these younger animals could be much more appreciated in terms of taste.
Sensorial properties. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so there are quite a lot of open questions to the aquacultural setting, evidently, but we are working on it.
Okay.
Okay, Olafur, shall we close this session then for the
Yeah.
morning?
Okay. So we have addressed all the questions in the chat box.
Yeah, it seems I don't see any anymore.
Great.
1,000 thanks to our presenters. Really interesting and great work.
Yeah. Thank you very much for all of the presentations. Now we can just go to lunch, and we should start again at 13:30 Central European Time.
Maybe we can extend 5-10 minutes more. We were a little bit later, but it depends on what everyone would prefer. So what do you say, Olafur? Shall we keep the program, or in case there is somebody who joins in on time? Or shall we open with 10 minutes more so that we give 1 hour precisely? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I see on the program it will start with a pitch by Ivan Carrera, and
he needs to be on time. Yes.
Yeah, so that would be
okay.
10:30 if we want to follow the schedule.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, which is sorry.
So,
yeah, 11:30, which is 13:30.
Yeah. So in 40 minutes, more or less,
Yeah.
we are back.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Shall we, just a question, shall we close now this Zoom session and open the next invitation for the second session?
Yeah, we have to do that.
Okay, so we log all out and then we log in after the lunch break with the new invitation.
Yeah, because the Zoom only allowed the maximum time was 6 hours. So we decided to have 2 sessions and 2 invitations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then until 13:30 for the second for the afternoon session.
Okay.
Okay.
Bon appetito, everyone. Thank you.
Bon appetit. Bye-bye.
Bye.